Welcome everybody to today's session for WHS507 and for Assessment 1. Just some housekeeping rules. Firstly, this session will be recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Make sure you check into the chat box where we ask that you put your first name and TAFE student number. The reason for this is when entering into the system, we enter into the system that you've attended the session. Any questions you may have during the session, please type them into the chat box and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Today's session, we'll do a quick review of the first session for this unit. Then we'll encourage you to read the first assessment using a highlighter pen to mark key areas, having a good look at understanding what the task requires us to complete, then remembering that this assessment will then become your appendix for the second assessment, which is a report. Just reviewing the 6 PowerPoints that we talked about in the first session. Here they are listed. Once we've reviewed these PowerPoints, we start our self-assessment tool and SWOT analysis. Once again, here's where we find all our information for this assessment. So let's look at the first assessment. The first assessment leads with a short introduction. This introduction covers the location, structure, size, and nature of the business, and a description of the operations and working environment. Then we need to briefly give an overview of the information system that's in place in our workplace, computerized paperwork examples, and how they are collected and stored. Then we move on to design of your auto tool self-assessment checklist. Now that, as we discussed in the first assessment, can be found down the left-hand side of the compliance tab. Then we move on to SWOT analysis, which is located directly below that. Then we talk about the documentation and record-keeping processes. This describes policies, procedures, checklists, forms, registers, operational functions, and the like. Then the use of the system and for what purpose the information is collected. Then we move on to communications and consultation, where based on previous assessments 502, we can use some of that information to use and dovetail into what this question's asking us. As analysing data collected, the past trends and actions of unsafe acts, near misses, incidents, injury prevention, now and into the future. Then we move on to researching and providing current legislation that covers this area of having an information system. And finally, researching industry best practice. Now, when we're talking best practice and benchmarking, we should be thinking of 4804, 4801, and the International ISO 31000 Risk Management Principles and Guidelines. This is then followed by a bibliography where we need 10 references. Then our appendices A and B being the auto self-assessment checklist and the completed SWOT analysis. So 5 areas of the system are covered by administration systems, operational environment, culture, attitudes, activities and responsibilities, communication and consultation, and internal and external involvement. Now, that external or internal involvement could be our auditing internally, and when we're going for accreditation, to use as a marketing tool to show that we, as an organisation, are moving to best practice and continual improvement. The next slide is one that if you did your Cert 4 with us, you'd be aware of. These 5 key components are necessary and are the engine room of any management system or information system. Here are tools and documents that support the above slide. Then we move into a very important part, what the information system contains and why we need this. We would have programs, policies, procedures, forms and checklists, audit tools, documentation and record keeping. And why do we do this? Why do we have the information system that's constantly being reviewed? To create a safer working environment, to reduce incidents, injuries, and injury-related, which come out in costs to all parties, improving business productivity and opportunities, verifying WHS performance, meeting our legal obligation and requirements, and enhancing our reputation within your industry and with your clients. This has become a big issue where clients want your safety culture to match theirs. Here we have activities that are necessary for compliance reasons, but also checking our health and safety culture. When accurately complied and available, the organisation can show best practice and continual improvement. When an organisation is and has collected accurate information and data in these areas, shows a strong safety culture. So when that external auditor can see that the organisation information system is healthy and well managed, accreditation can be assured. Now here is the most important slide. When in doubt, ring or email and talk to a WHS teacher. Remember, the WHS teachers are available to help. Book that 15-minute tutorial at a time that suits you. See the below number and email address. So, are there any questions? Where there being none, I thank you for attending, and I look forward to seeing you next time for the 3rd assessment session which is based on assessment 2.